Hey guys, what's up? Pardon this like off center, but you're gonna see why in a second. I use shitty software, but anyway, I want to discuss the black and white OU viability. I was gonna make a long post, but I actually started to make a video, and then I just sum it up in the post and link the video. But basically, while the viability rankings are here, I think they're a bit dated. Definitely a good start, but I want to make some changes, and I want to state my opinions. And I thought the best way to just kind of go down the list. I went through pretty briefly. I typoed Reuniclus. Hold up, this is gonna bug me. There we go. So I went through down the list, and I was like, okay, I think that given the metagame shifts of last year and now this SPL, it was best to kind of have it reflect this. I kind of went down the list. I didn't really put a ton of thought and time into it, so maybe I'll change my opinion as I talk through it. But I kind of just want to go down the list and say what I think is at the top, and then go down and so on and so forth. And I also thought that these kind of analytical videos would be a nice addition to my channel. If this one gets a nice reception, then maybe I'll do a couple more in the future. We'll have to wait and see. This is probably going to take a while, honestly. This could be an hour-long video in itself. Hopefully, it's going to keep it under an hour, because I've got a birthday party to go to at 2-ish, so it's now 1. So here goes. Anyway, and S-rank of the actual viability rankings currently reads Garchomp, Keldeo, Tyranitar, Latios. And I believe all those Pokemon belong in S-rank. However, I disagree with that order very much. And I also think that Ferrothorn also belongs in S-rank. So let's start with what I believe to be the most important metagame defining Pokemon in the tier. And I think that Ferrothorn honestly belongs up there with these two, but since it's currently A+, I'm leaving it at 3rd. But right now, Tyranitar and Latios are without doubt two of the top 3 or 4 Pokemon in the metagame. You could argue a couple ways, but these two are of the utmost importance right now. And the reason being is that Tyranitar pretty much sets the pace of the metagame. Tan teams are still seen as the standard. Tyranitar, especially the Choppleberry set, is a humongous force of roll compression. It's potentially a big threat with the 4-attack set, which you've been seeing more and more lately. And Stealth 3 attacks also still provides pursuit support, which is one of the main checks to Latios. And I guess I could use this as my segue into Latios. Latios is just a ridiculously threatening Pokemon, and if this was a modern-day metagame, it'd surely be suspected and probably banned. It's just that good, but it never got banned during Black-White, and you kind of embrace it as a Black-White player, the fact that Latios is so good, and it dictates a lot of how the metagame is played and how team-building conventions are sorted out. Specs Latios is huge. The most common set right now is Draco, Meteor, Surf, Sleep Talk, and Dragon Pulse. However, Trick and then also Dragon Pulse or Recover in the last slot is also viable. You see that a bit more nowadays, especially in teams with other sleep absorbers. You see more Breloom and Gliscor right now, so those can absorb sleep. And then, of course, you pair it with Amoonguss, which means you're really good against things like Keldeo when you have both of those two. Then it also runs Sleep Talk usually in Amoonguss, so then you can run Trick on Latios, which is a really nice aid against the kind of Sunstone teams you're seeing right now. And also it's cool against Rain with Ferrothorn, because once you trick the Ferrothorn, then you pretty much have free reign to pick apart those teams, which is a really underrated concept. Because sure, you're going to let it lock into spikes and get spikes up, but you're going to get a kill out of that. And if you're recovered, then you're also going to be able to check the assault of things like Thundurus and Politoed and Keldeo while keeping pretty healthy. So Trick Recover Latios is really good against Rain teams right now, I would say, especially given its Spikes immunity. It's just such an amazing Pokemon, and you see a lot of games with bulky offenses with, like, say, Rotom Wash or Magnezone plus Latios, and once the burn or the trap is on the Ferrothorn, then Latios just picks apart those teams. And it's just such a potent force in the metagame that you could not argue anyway that it's not a top 3 Pokemon. I think my Latios usage is north of 50%. And on some archetypes, some teams, you just really got to say, okay, is it really worth not using Latios as opposed to is it worth using it? I think the status quo almost is pushing in favor of it, if that makes sense. Latios is just such a dynamic presence. And also, I mean, the spec set is so potent and easily the best single standalone set in the metagame, in my opinion. Scarf is seeing more and more usage on Rain teams, which I find to be more acceptable with time, especially since those Rain teams often are fine with just trading it for like 70% of tar if they also have, like, say, Agility, Thundurus, or Starmie, or vice versa, one of those trade, and then Latios itself can clean later on, as that Latios set helps deal with opposing Rain teams, especially once Ferrothorn is taken care of. It's a great revenge killer against opposing offensive Rain, and it just decimates opposing weatherless offense. especially Drag Mag teams. So yeah, Latios in general is just such a great Pokemon. While Specs, of course, is going to be the set that you see 90-95% of the time. It's just so good that you can't really pass up on it too often. I think that in SPL, the 2 games I didn't use Sun. I didn't use it, of course, but in all 4 other games, I'm pretty sure I used it, and I won 3 of those 4. Was it on the team I used against TDK and ZF? That was Tyranitar, Heatran, Rotom, Reuniclus. I think I had Latios and Landorus. Yeah. I'd have to double check. That might have actually been a Latios-less build, but I've been using a lot of Latios plus Reuniclus builds in Tour and side tours like PO World Cup, HPL, etc. lately. So yeah, I mean, needless to say, Latios is huge. And another thing about Latios is, and you're going to see later, I touch on Reuniclus as a search and viability. Latios does really well in those teams too because it weakens Tyranitar for bulking Reuniclus. There's just so much reason to use Latios right now. It's great, and Tyranitar in itself is also obviously a top tier Pokemon. It basically defines the metagame. Like, it is arguably the face of Black and White, and has been for years. And it's the face of standard games. It's an unchangeable member of those archetypes. So yeah, the comments that you'll see is Stealth, Rock Crunch, Superpower, or Fire Blast, and Pursuit. However, Dice mentioned Low Kick over Superpower lately to me, especially, and I don't like that in general, but I do like it on teams with Latios plus Reuniclus, which you're seeing more and more like those Psychic spam teams. Also Latios plus Alakazam. Why is that? Because that means you 1v1 opposing Chople target. You do the same amount of damage without taking the -1, so they -1, and eventually you win that 1v1. And you also just force that damage without taking the -1 yourself. So that's huge on dual Psychic teams, and also does similar damage to Ferrothorn and Excadrill, which is really the main targets. You do miss out a bit on Heatran and like Jirachi, which you don't even hit super effectively anyway. But yeah, no, it's pretty big, the damage output. Okay, sorry, just getting tagged. Someone HBL teammate playing. Anyway, so yeah, in my opinion, Tyranitar and Latios are 2 of the 3 best Pokemon, and Ferrothorn is top 3. Again, you could argue that Ferrothorn is on par with these 2, but the issue is that Ferrothorn's niche, Ferrothorn's bread and butter is a bit less conventionally offensive or even defensive than either of these Pokemon. Tyranitar is predominantly actually a defensive presence and a utility presence in my eyes. Ferrothorn is a field setter, game controller. In a lot of ways, if you get off to a bad start and you let Ferrothorn get a free turn early in games, or you miss a Will-O-Wisp with Rotom W turn 1, then that is huge. A lot of early games totally focus on getting that burn or getting that knock on Ferrothorn, or getting the trap with Magnezone on Ferrothorn, which is solely the reason why Magnezone is soared up in usage during SPL. If you look at the usage stats, it's like top 15, I think. Yeah, I mean, Ferrothorn is just of the utmost importance. And first and foremost, it's a check to Latios in itself. HP Fire has pretty much gone extinct. HP Fighting is rare. Second off, a lot of rain teams struggle to actually directly threaten Ferrothorn, so they rely on a knock and a skull burn and this and that, and 2 of those things add up, and that's a huge thing. If you get the burn with Rotom W or skull burn or the knock or the hypnosis on Ferrothorn, that's huge. It changes the whole position of the game, and early game positioning in Black-White is so big. But Ferrothorn's just great, and spikes are immensely important to so many teams right now. It's an integral part. I mean, shit, my Ferrothorn usage is also north of 40-45%. I actually did it. Like my last 100 teams built, I think I had like 53 Ferrothorn. It was like 69 or 68 Latios, and it was like 52 or 53 Tyranitar. And then from there, I think I had Landorus on like 39 or 40 of them. Garchomp on like 20 some odd. Keldeo on like 15, and all those are S. I mean, honestly, my Keldeo usage is kind of low at this point, but frankly. But it's definitely a great Pokemon. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But yeah, Ferrothorn is huge. I mean, you see it now running knockoff a lot for opposing Ferrothorn, just to show how important it is, but also that knock is huge because you force a 50-50 turn 1 against Protect Gliscor, where if you hazard on Protect, you get a big lead, and if you knock on Taunt, then you basically cripple the Gliscor. So yeah, that's huge. You get that right. If you don't, then you're fine. You're not threatened by the Gliscor anyway. Also a minor setback. It's not a big deal. What else? Ferrothorn Iron Barbs is a really underrated thing because it makes the Drill Mine game, especially if you're Power Whip, a lot more threatening. So spinning on Ferrothorn teams if it's not burnt or knocked is kind of hard. Well, not hard, but it's hard to spin and then sustain hazards being off in a long haul while preserving your Excadrill, which in itself is needed in a lot of matchups. Like, say you're facing a team with Ferrothorn and bulky Reuniclus, you want to save that Sand Force Reuniclus. There's a Sand Force Excadrill for Reuniclus, of course, because offensively it can muscle through it in sand. However, if you want to spin the houses off from Ferrothorn, it's like you're too spread thin, which is a large part is why I focus my team building more on pressuring spikes or having 4 spike immunes, for example, as opposed to running a spinner. And I think that's something a lot of black and white players totally like forego thinking about. But using 4 spike immune Pokemon, or even 5 spike immune Pokemon, or say 4 plus a spiker in itself, is in a way saying, okay, well, I'm going to forfeit spikes up to you. I'm also going to get my own spikes up, and they're going to hurt your team more than mine. So therefore, I have an inherent leg up. There's this team I've been using with the Tyranitar, Heatran, Reuniclus, Latios, Rotom, Lando team I mentioned, and also that team with Ferrothorn over Heatran, and then also the team Ruhr used in finals. Like, those teams in themselves are meant to kind of dominate the field, or equalize the field, but take advantage of the field being equal. Ruhr's team, the one I bought for Ruhr, has an Excadrill, so that in itself is a bit of an exception. But the other two I mentioned, the Ferrothorn / Heatran, plus the standard 5 with Reuniclus, Latios, those teams are basically meant to say, okay, the field is either going to be A, neutral, or B, slightly favoring you. However, my hazards are going to do more against you than your hazards are going to versus me. And that, coupled with things like Reuniclus plus Latios, goes a ridiculously long way, in my opinion. And Ferrothorn is just kind of the essence of black and white in a lot of ways. Like, Ferrothorn does so much, and you have to prepare for it so much. And also, I mean, it's actually low-key versatile in the sense that you could run Power Pajama, you could run Leech Protect, you knock this on almost all my sets nowadays. You could run Thunder Wave, which is low-key really nasty with Reuniclus right now, by the way. I've even been running Bulldoze a lot lately. Why? Now, I mean, obviously the initial answer is Magnezone, but you're seeing more and more Air Balloon Magnezone, a set that I think I've kind of popularized in itself. And that's huge for trapping Scarf Excadrill, or just Excadrill in general, flexing the Earthquake, or Stealth Rock, or Protect, or Toxic. You switch in and it doesn't flinch you after that. Air Balloon, Magnet Rise, Sunny Day, HP Fire, Thunderbolt, that Magnezone. So that's not with that, but also, if you're facing rain, and a lot of these rains have this substitute Iron Head, Thunder, Hidden Power, Ice Slash, Icy Wind, and Jirachi set that's ridiculously obnoxious to standard teams, assuming you like triple shit. You triple the right things, like cripple the Drill, cripple the Hitran, cripple the Pharaoh. But if you run Bulldoze against that, then you can consistently break subs, and that's huge. Also, on rain teams especially, well, obviously Sunny Day Magnezones and like terrain teams, and that Jirachi's, especially knowing terrain teams, it also means that you can break the sub of Sub Punch Toxic. So Toxic essentially can't do anything against you all day, which is huge. And then it hits Heatran too, but I mean, that's less important. Anyway, yeah, Ferrothorn is low-key versatile. In itself is an amazing top metagame presence, and it does all of the things you want it to do. It's just so great. So yeah, that's big. Next up is Garchomp. So Garchomp is one of my favorite black and white Pokemon. Needless to say, it's been like in my custom avatar, it's in my banner on the forums, etc. Garchomp is a Pokemon that I kind of identify with. It's just so cool. I love its design. I love what it could do. How do I put it appropriately? Garchomp is kind of okay. So Garchomp is never going to fully fall off, but Garchomp was at one point better than it is now, and it's still a top 5-6 Pokemon without a doubt. You probably could argue that it is probably about 5th right now, maybe 4th. I have it 4th. Yeah, I mean that's fine. But the fact of the matter is that Landorus-T is stealing a lot of its spotlight. A lot of teams are using, say, Terrakion or Heatran or Thunder Wave Alakazam as their Volcarona play, because Volcarona counterplay like isn't necessarily, a lot of people just don't use Volcarona. It's dropping in usage. So one of the reasons to use Scarf Garchomp is deteriorating, and then Landorus having Intimidate plus, just like it fits the modern archetype much better than Garchomp. But Garchomp, the thing is that if you support it with a Magnezone or a Swords Dance Fighting Gem Landorus in itself, the Scarf Garchomp is actually one of the most threatening Pokemon of all time. And you'll see that I used a couple dual ground sand bulky offenses in SPL, and that archetype is ridiculously threatening to the point where, like, if you support Scarf Garchomp with an Earthquake or Outrage in a self late game, he's so ridiculously threatening to teams later on. And you say, what? You mean that in a tier with things like Skarmory running all over the place opposing Landorus? Bulky Waters, Reuniclus? Yes, I do mean that. I mean, look, Scarf Garchomp needs more support now than it did before to be a threat. But I mean, let's say just on generic bulky offense, I tend to net use Scarf Garchomp as much without support. But even then, standalone, it's still great. It's a good revenge killer. It has dual chop for Alakazam, which is still amazing. It's strong. It's faster than anything at +1, pretty much like Volt, for example, the main one. It's just so good. But with support, say my favorite method of supporting it is Swords Dance, Fighting Gem, Landorus-T. The team that I use against Okuro and Ruhr in S-Tour and in SPL respectively, as well as the team that pretty much everyone spammed during the first week of Black and White Tour. It's like Tyranitar, Landorus, Garchomp, Rotom, W, Ferrothorn, and Latios. That's like a very standard system. You have Scarf Chomp plus Fighting Gem Landorus. And no, that team is just killer. It fucks everyone up. Excuse me, but yeah, I mean, just Garchomp with that support, or even if you pair it, the team used against FLCL had Garchomp plus Magnezone plus Swords Dance, Rock Polish U-turn Landorus, which also said I just dominated a Black White Cup series with the other day. It's just such a cool, like the synergetic scheme you could have with Scarf Garchomp, like when you just play game, it opens up for so much. And I mean, I also on the flip side, I like mixed Garchomp or Swords Dance Garchomp with Scarf Landorus. They open up for each other. So dual ground stands are so good right now, and I think that's an archetype that not a lot of people identify as like a true archetype. They just like group it as stand bulky offense, but in itself is like so threatening. It's something that almost like pushes me to using shit like Tangrowth or Slowbro more often, or even Mew, like Bold Mew. But yeah, I mean, it's something that a lot of people underestimate, in my opinion. It's hard to be fully prepared for those teams. They overwhelm you. They come at you quick. And I think it's something that I've been kind of picking up on as like a really threatening synergetic force. On the Scarf Garchomp set, while in my opinion is probably the best set, the most consistently used set, Swords Dance Jirachi is also really underrated. Why is that? It's a great assault against all of these HP races you see right now. And even ice teams. Like against rain teams, Yachi Berry is always going to fucking activate if you don't like throw it away or use it as fodder. You get Thundurus, you get Starmie, you get Politoed, you name it. Landorus-T, HP Ice, trying to take it up. Reuniclus, HP Ice, that's another big one. Jirachi, Icy Winter, HP Ice. You name it. Even Heatrans are running Magma Storm, Earth Power, Hidden Power Ice a bit more often nowadays. Yachi also helps versus the Gliscor matchup as Ice Fang. Fails to a KO if you throw that. So yeah, Swords Dance Yachi Bag Gliscor is huge. You got like the Stealth Rock variant as well, especially with like a gem. I kind of like Swords Dance, Dragon Gem, Outrage, that just kind of nuke shit. And then there's like mixed 4 attacks. The BKC kind of set from that bulky offense balances team with Rotom W, Amoonguss, Heatran, Garchomp Tar. That's a classic build. I almost used it in World Cup actually, but then the Italian was lost and I just reused something. But yeah, I mean that team in itself is totally solid. The mixed 4 attacks chomp. You could run Outrage last. You run Stealth Rock last. You could even run Swords Dance last. Swords Dance mix is low key kind of threatening with Life Orb. But yeah, where do I don't even know where to stop. Like Garchomp is such a great Pokemon. You could do so much with it. I've even seen more modernized Rocky Helmet variant. I'm not a big fan of that. I wouldn't say that's any part of the reason why it's S, but it's viable. It's nice to whittle shit for Reuniclus. Where else do I have to say about Garchomp? I mean, you could run so much on it. I've seen Yachi. I've seen Custap. I ran Custap against McMegan in World Cup. I've ran Yachi countless times, Scarf countless times, Gems countless times. I've ran, there's a Fire Gem set CL used in SPL 8 with like Dual Chop, Earthquake, Hidden Power Ice, Fire Gem, and it is just a ridiculously cheesy set, but it in itself has a niche. I mean, I've even seen Banded from Jirachi. It's a bit of a throwback set, but yeah, I mean, you guys get the gist of why Garchomp is just such a potent force, and while on paper maybe it's not necessarily as great as the other top tier Pokemon in the modern day, as a classical Black-White player, you can't not put Garchomp at S. It's just so good, and even if a lot of newer players neglect it and think it's a less quote-unquote sexy pick, it's just so good, and I'm always going to stand by that, and I'm always going to have decent but not amazing Garchomp usage, and I think it definitely squarely deserves a spot in S-rank. Next Pokemon's going to be Keldeo. I was kind of on the fence between Keldeo and Landorus-T. Actually, you could argue that Landorus-T. You know what? Just because offense is switch. I've been talking to BKC a lot about this. Like Landorus-T is just so good. I'm gonna put Landorus-T here actually, in my opinion, but I'm gonna expect it to stay an S. Yeah, you know what? I think that's changed. And by the way, this video is only gonna get through like S, A plus, and A probably. I'm gonna do another video further down, but this is the most important video in my opinion, if only because like it's just like these are the cream of the these are the best Pokemon in the tier. Anyway, let's get to Keldeo next. So Keldeo, the Protect Toxic Scald Secret Sword variant that Dice popularized at the start of SPL 9 has taken off, and it's been huge. However, with the recent surge in Reuniclus, I kind of feel like Keldeo has to find a new identity. Because while that set is good, Reuniclus hardwalls it. While Reuniclus is a source to recover, which then invites an Excadrill or invites an Tyranitar or invites an Latios, etc. It's not necessarily a net gain sequence for the Keldeo team because they're going to have to switch it in and then switch in another thing. They're both going to take spikes whereas Reuniclus isn't taking spikes or sand. So, yeah, I feel like that kind of Keldeo balance is only validated anymore if you run either A, Excadrill for spikes, or B, some direct way of abusing a Reuniclus that's not like a Sandforce Excadrill, which there are plenty of for the record, but it limits it beyond like the old like crusty Keldeo, Amoonguss, Gliscor kind of teams that you saw a lot during the middle of 2018. And those teams were so annoying to play against, but now Reuniclus, HP Ice plus Thunder just kind of invalidates them, especially if you pair it with a Latios to just fuck up the Tyranitar's health. So yeah, like those teams like totally wipe the floor with those Protect Toxic Keldeo balances in my eyes. But whatchamacallit, the Keldeo's whole like thing like predates that though. Keldeo was suspected because on Rain it's so fucking absurdly, unbearably fucking broken. Like Keldeo in Rain is such an underrated force by newer players. I feel like this kind of bread and butter vanilla Scarf Keldeo Rain is still so good right now. Like that in itself is one of the best winning additions. I was explaining this to Leo, one of my OU moderators, and actually a really underrated player in my eyes. He was showing me this Rain team, right? And he had a Keldeo. And this was like a while back. So, but he's like, I want another win condition on his team. I'm like, dude, Scarf Keldeo in Rain is a win condition. And I think I need to explain this, especially to like the non like black-white mains. Like, Scarf Keldeo in Rain is so fucking potent, man. Like, shit. Like, let's say you're playing a standard bulky offensive sand, and you have Rain with Scarf Keldeo. Your advantage is ridiculous if they don't have Amoonguss. Like, if it's like bulky offense, we're talking like Ferrothorn plus Rowan plus Lottie. Those teams are going to lose to Scarf Keldeo if it's executed the game plan better than the opponent almost always. I fucking get tagged on Discord. Sorry. But, like, checking on my phone. Fuck it. I'll get all passionate about this shit, man. Who tagged me where? I keep scrolling to the servers. I don't see it. Someone in the double server. Oh, yeah, I got picked in DPL. That was lit. I'm going to pause 1 second. Sorry. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, Keldeo is just such a ridiculous force on Rain. I mean, the Scarf set conventionally is just so good. Like, if you're using Rain offense with Scarf Keldeo against, say, Weatherless offense, like Dragon, you're going to win. It cleans out shit. It's so good. And I just think that people don't realize that if you just have, like, a Latios, then sure, you're checking Keldeo initially, but the Latios takes one Hydro and Rain and then Stealth Rock, and then the next one, it literally dies to a decent chance of the time, especially if Stealth Rock stays up. Like, it's so good, and I mean, it's also ridiculously fast, which means that it can check shit like Volcarona, which is of the utmost importance as well. I mean, Keldeo Rain, Scarf Keldeo Rain is going to be classic. It's always going to be good in black-white, and it's something that's underrated. It's something that, like Keldeo Rain itself, caused it to almost be banned, and probably should have been banned back during black-white. I mean, BKC was really adamant that it should have been banned, and I think that is kind of broken now, but not to the same extent Latios is. And I just think that it's kind of an integral part of the tier now that you don't want to change it, of course. Like, Keldeo Rain is just so good. And, I mean, it's not only Scarf either. Specs and Rain Oh my god, that's so potent. I know TDK is a pretty big advocate of that in himself, but I like it quite a lot too. While you're seeing a bit more Jellicent right now because these dumbass dudes are like, oh my god, taunt Jellicent's needed. You gotta control. Like, fuck you, ABR. You suck my dick. But nah. I mean, like on the real, Kelio's just so good. Specs. Scarf is the best set in my eyes. Protect Toxic still has a lot of utility. It's just kind of limited in what it can be paired with. And then you've got like the gem sets, Calm Mind, 3 attacks. Those are all niche, but in themselves good. Keldeo is just so good, and you don't abuse it for a ton defensively, but like at the same time, you can still come in pretty consistently in battles, which is all you need from Pokemon like Keldeo, and it's just always going to be great in Black White. I'd argue in Black White, it's just like a clear cut top 5-7 Pokemon in the tier, and it's always going to be that way. Now Landorus-T. For a while, never really caught on as what is now in Black White, like during Black White itself, but now it's just so good. I mean, the Scarf set is obviously all over the place. Scarf U-turn is huge. HP Ice, you know the drill. You're going to see it on like 40% of teams, no matter what tournament you look at. However, as of late, I've noticed that, especially through my own usage, but also in general, I mean, BKC and I talked about offensive Landorus, it's now Scarf. So, like, Swords Dance, Earthquake, Hidden Power Ice in itself, like that's so threatening to so many teams. I mean, really the only check is Skarmory, and then if it's like, say, Fighting Gem Superpower, that's gonna be fucking annihilated. If it's even, I've seen TDK run like Rock Gem Stone Edge. I think I actually might not have been him. Someone is supposed to be. I'm not as big an advocate of that, but that would also do fucking boatload. I mean, things like the Gravity teams. I mean, they pair it with Magnezone. Landorus-T is just so immensely threatening to non-Skarmory shit. And the Skarmory can be manipulated through the gems or traps. Yeah, and I mean, like you see these Gliscor balances from like late 2018, like the shit I use in World Cup finals. If that team didn't have a Slowbro, then that team just gets fucking absolutely crushed by Swords and HPS Landorus. Like, because you HPS the Gliscor or the opposing Landorus on those kind of builds, then just Swords Dance plus Earthquake just plows through. It's just so ridiculously threatening. Especially since you always have the threat of Tyranitar in the back for Latios. So, like, you've got to be, like, super timely, and you've got to accept the potential net outcome of a trade in that scenario as well with your Latios. So, yeah, I mean, offensive Landorus-T is huge. And you also have, like, the Rock Polish U-turn set I've mentioned, the initially made by Kratos Mana or Anti set. That set's so good with Magnezone right now. I feel like it's underrated. A lot of people need to use that. I tried to bring back this SPL, and I got a lot of people using it in Force. That was cool. That team is real fucking nasty, man. But yeah, no, Landorus is just so good. I'm looking at the time, and I really only have like 15 more minutes to record, so I'm only gonna go through A+ rank after this. But yeah, no, Landorus definitely deserves a spot in the 5FS, in my opinion. And if not, then the top of A+ surely. I find you saw me literally change it like 5 minutes ago. So yeah, I mean, Landorus-T is so good, man. All right, so now let's get to A+. The top of A+, in my opinion, is Politoed, and I mean the debate between like where to place Politoed is kind of endless. It's definitely A+ or S at this point because Rain is just that good. But you see, the thing is that Pokemon like Keldeo, while they're best on Rain teams, they're not only seen on Rain. Like the Pokemon above it that are seen on Rain teams, like transcend Politoed's viability without a doubt. But Rain is so good, you could argue that Politoed also could belong in low S. It's just, I think that A+ is a bit more representative. You see, like, top-tier Pokemon that fall short of S, but so largely associated with the identity of the metagame. Like, Politoed is, without a doubt, associated with the identity of the metagame. I mean, Rain teams are the second most common archetype. They're always going to see between a quarter and a third usage in the metagame, in my eyes, anyway. And then, like, you'll see Sand sitting a bit above 50%, and then you'll see Weatherless and Sun sitting between, like, say, 7 and 15%, I'd say. I mean, these are very rough numbers, but they're probably about true in most cases, give or take the margin of error. Why do I keep getting tagged on Discord? Is it still the double server that random that, like, popped off? I don't see the tag, man. Where the fuck is the tag? Shit. Oh, sorry, it's in Ruiners. Well, Hyoga Fedex just called me old and smelly on Discord, so I just had to pause this video for a sec, but... Oh, that guy's funny, by the way. I love that dude. But anyway, Politoed, yeah, it's just so good. And I mean, while Politoed in itself is a bad Pokemon, with Drizzle and its arsenal, like its moveset, it's actually like a pretty good presence. Like, first and foremost, the defensive set with Scald, Protect, Toxic is annoying stuff. You run Encore or Psychic if you're paranoid of Toxic Growth, especially run Psychic. But otherwise, Encore is really nice now for Reuniclus, for Ferrothorn, for other bulky waters, etc. It sets up free turns on offensive rain, which is really nice. I've also ran Refresh on both gear range. It's really cool for ones you wanting opposing Politoed and Tentacruel. That's just so nice. Refresh is underrated as well. And then, I mean, on top of that, you have the fucking killer assets like Water Gem with Thief. That's so cool in my eyes. You just don't want to Thief Black Sludge from a poison type. That would be real bad. I've seen that happen before. If you Thief Toxic Orb off of fucking Breloom turn 1, by the way, you're a god. But it's a risky proposition in itself. Anyway, that aside, there's also like Scarf Politoed, which has seen a bit of a resurgence. The Cryonicles actually kind of add this theory where like if you use Scarf Politoed, you free up one more slot on rain team, so it's kind of cool, and you can compensate for it being a shitty Scarfer. But I've seen a couple more people use Scarf Politoed as of late too. But I mean, prior to that, the general consensus among like top Black White players that Scarf Politoed was kind of shitty. But like now we're seeing it more as like a utility pick, which is cool. Like you don't even need Hydra, you just run like Scald, Psychic Ice Beam, like in Hypnosis or Encore. It's neat. Admittedly, it's neat. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, and then there's Specs, which sees absolutely no usage right now, but it really should. It kills everything. Specs Hydro Pump is doing at least 40%. So pretty much everything. Even like Ferrothorn and Amoonguss, the tops off around 40, I think. I mean, and then you have like the neutral or super effective, and it kills all that shit. Like Specs Politoed, you just like look at the calcs of it against top Pokemon. Like it 2 kills Latios, it fucking decimates like shit like Garchomp and Jirachi and Reuniclus. It probably 2 kills Rotom W if it's not max special defense. I mean, shit, it's just so good. Specs Politoed. The issue is getting it in safely and lack of defensive utility, while you have also lack of speed. But like that can be worked around so easily. I used it against Aladdin in that really infamous game in World Cup a couple years back. We don't talk about that, but yeah, I mean, Specs Politoed has a great niche as well, and Politoed obviously is the rain setter that's mandatory in every rain team. So, needless to say, Politoed's great. Looking at the rest of this list, however, I'm moving Skarmory down. You know what? I'm reordering this. Hold up. Yeah, this is better. Why do you ask that? Oh, let me get down the list first. Amoonguss is You know what? Reuniclus is just so good right now. Fuck. All right, so Reuniclus, I literally have fucking as a top like 7 Pokemon because in SPL, like it turned over the metagame, and obviously this is a huge overreaction on the grand scale because the next metagame cycle like trend is going to be anti-Reuniclus. It's just how the metagame, all gen metagames move cyclically. So, for example, Gliscor popped up during mid 2018, specifically during the World Cup period, as being like really good, like the taunt protect set. My game against Blacks kind of ignited. Well, not only that game, but like ignited like a slew of teams that were like this grimy sand balance that had the taunt Gliscor that were like so hard to break through. And then H-Face Reuniclus to SPL, led by We Three Kings, and McMegan specifically, popped up as like such a huge anti quote unquote metagame if you define that Gliscor team, like Gliscor teams, sorry, as the metagame. It's like it fucked those up so badly. And then you notice that both being like Reuniclus like, wow, this solves all my problems. Like it's immune to spikes, it's immune to sand. It fucking hits all of these annoying ass ground types besides Excadrill 4 times super effectively. And it has Thunder, so like Paralyzed Tar. It really fucking fucks with rain teams, especially the more passive ones. It beats Stall without Goth. Like carry on, like all these things. Reuniclus was some fucking answer to. And the metagame's still sort of in this honeymoon phase with Reuniclus at this point, to where it's ridiculously good, but people are slowly adapting. You're going to see more Excadrill, especially Sandforce Drill, as it was the Bolt Beam variants. But however, the Psychic Focus Blast, the Psyshock Focus Blast variant, is still quite good in itself. Like, Offensive Trick Room is good too, Zora used that to be solo in week 1. Like, at the end of the day, Reuniclus is just really good. And I think the Bolt Beam set's not only good set either, but it's the most used right now. But yeah, Reuniclus is phenomenal. And Excadrill popped up. Well, obviously it's always been good, but like lately, it controlling the hazard game has been more effective than normal because you'll see more Rotom W and other shit too. If it was up to me only, like I'd put Rotom W in A+, but like I know others don't use it as much, so it's a different story. I know a lot of people would literally put it in A- for A+, so fair enough. I have it in the top of my A rank for what it's worth, but you're not going to see that fly now. I'm going to get to that in another video. But yeah, I know I skipped the Amoonguss, I'll get back to it. But Excadrill itself is so good. Sandforce is especially just fucking monumentally brilliant. They threaten out and they beat both Reuniclus. Assuming it doesn't get out of hand. It's the only fucking good spinner on sand teams. If you're using this bulky Starmie on sand, like it just fuckers. That's garbage, man. Tarbait, Ferrobait, Rotom bait, Lottie bait. Ugh. Deplorable. But yeah, no, Excadrill, it's a great spinner. And I mean, on top of that, it's a good Sky for, especially if you're with Magdazone. It could run the Swords Dance set. It could run the Protect, Ironhead, Earthquake, Rapid Spin variant that Dice made, that Ruhr used in that really cool team in SPL Finals. It could run the Special Defenses set, even with Mold Breaker. Excadrill's just a great, I want to say utility presence, but also a nice offensive presence as well. It's definitely been a good addition to the metagame, and it helps a lot against Reuniclus. And it's kind of the way to counteract that Psychic Spam, it plus Chapeltar, and then the occasional, say, Scarf Ground type to threaten him out. Jirachi, which unfortunately is dropping in usage. Yeah, Excadrill's great. But anyway, I have Amoonguss a bit above it still, because Amoonguss is a bit more common, a bit more of a kind of a staple on stand balance in my eyes. Like, Amoonguss is so good. It's even good on bulky offenses to pivot if you don't have Rotom W. Like, there are ways to fuck with it. It's the really only Breloom, like, semblance of Breloom counter. I wouldn't even call it a counter because it's only kind of technician sets, and Fighting Gem can overwhelm it potentially as well. But you've got the fucking Facade Swords Dance set that I made, and people have been spamming in Tour as well, which fucking kills it. Like, it literally beats Amoonguss. It turns itself to Amoonguss counter. So yeah, I mean, that's huge. Metagame reacting to Amoonguss, but yeah, Amoonguss in itself is quite good. Yeah, I mean, not much to say. Like, Spore, Sleep, like, it fucking runs Sleep Talk and Spore. Sleep is so broken in Backlight. But also, like, besides controlling the Sleep game, which potentially could make you 6-5, you face an ill-prepared team, every team pretty much has to run Sleep Talk, otherwise they're fucked. Sleep Talk or, like, a Toxic Pokemon, if it runs HP Ice, then you fuck your score, and then you get Sleep anyway. But yeah, no, Amoonguss is so good. And also, it's one of the few checks, like, Rotom, Keldeo, Politoed, you know, like, those things, and you can run Stun Sport, run Hidden Power Fire, run Hidden Power Ice. Like, it's so good. Amoonguss is great, and I always take advantage of it. Sure, Heatran, Reuniclus, Spike on it with Skarmory, etc. But Amoonguss is just a nasty good Pokemon, and it's always going to be a plus in my eyes. Then you get to the last two steals. Where I'm going to end this video off, perhaps. Jirachi, man, this thing used to be borderline S rank back in like SPL 6 time. And I mean, Mixed Jirachi is still great. Scarf no longer sees usage. Stealth Rock, bulky, and Rain is great. I mean, honestly, Jirachi is more of a Rain Pokemon than anything now, which is kind of sad. It's fallen off, unfortunately. But it's like still a counter to most Reuniclus if it doesn't get paralyzed, especially. But Iron plus Thunder just nicely there. Or Body Slam, the Wish set you run with Magnus on Drill on those triple kill kind of teams. Combine sets on Renicle, run Wish support. Jirachi is just a cool niche Pokemon. I've checked the Latios. It's got amazing natural bulk. It's got a great move pool. Yeah, it checks Psychics. It checks Alakazam. Yeah, it's good. But it kind of underwhelms me at the moment. It's kind of falling off the pad. Next up, you have Skarmory. And so I'm going to finish this video off. It's the last one. But Skarmory is just a great presence. It's the second best spiker in the metagame. It's a great check the ground types. It's nice to have Rocky Helmet against Drill. I've been experimenting with it a lot. It's just kind of a stable Pokemon. I understand balance as opposed to bulky offense where you see Pharaoh more. But yeah, no, Skarmory is great. And while you're seeing Pharaoh like more and more, which correlates to less Skarmory usage, you can't just say, oh, Skarmory like underwhelms me, because it doesn't. Skarmory's so great. The Thinking Bird is always going to be like a top 10, 15 Pokemon. It's just phenomenal. And you can't take it away from that. And wow, I'm kind of getting repetitive here. I know I'm filling out. I've got to go soon. But Skarmory definitely belongs at the bottom of A+ in my eyes. And this is my analysis is top tier of the metagame. So next time, I'm going to go through A rank in my eyes and A- rank in my eyes. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to try to get videos up every now and then. I've had a lot of free time today, so I figured I'd get this one up before I had to go out to see my family. But yeah, this is Finch. Peace.